What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Logically Fit podcast.
What?
I know. Casey just has a strange voice today.
Yes. No, we were just screwing around. Normally I do the intros, but
Yes.
I wanted Toby to be like, Toby, you want to do it? And he's like, fuck, let's just do it.
Hell yeah.
Sorry.
Hell yeah.
Sorry for the cussing. I'm a daughter of a construction worker.
That's all right. Usually what I say when people cuss, it's like, yeah, it's like a whole Yellowstone vibe.
Yeah.
You know, when they're in this ranch scene where they're talking about how are we going to get it back without getting trampled to death? Well, we just thought, fuck it. Yeah, fuck it. That's the best you guys could come up with.
God,
Yeah.
I love that show. I can't wait. When's the next show coming out? And they have different series coming out too.
Yeah, they're having like things. I think they're taking a very similar approach to what Game of Thrones did, where they're just trying to have, but all of the successful TV things do that. Like Lord of the Rings did that.
Yep. Didn't they just come out with like a series?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think they were actually the first ones to do it.
Yeah. But I think they just released a new series, or am I thinking of something else?
Maybe. I know that they did the Lord of the Rings, then they did the Hobbit.
Yeah.
And then they did a series, and then there was Game of Thrones, and then they had their prequel.
Don't get me started on House of Dragons. That last are you watching the House of Dragons?
No.
I don't think we can be friends anymore.
Listen,
Linda.
If I know I'm going to like something, I don't watch it until they're entirely done with it, so that I can just binge it. Yeah. It's gone are the days where I have to wait an entire week to get a new episode. I hate it. I thought I would enjoy it, so I started like those shows on Apple TV where it's like every episode coming out on Friday, and I was like, oh my god, that's going to be so great, the suspense. And I did not like it at all.
So you have to like watch it all the way through.
Yes.
Like, fuck any plans. It's just work and this TV show.
I watched all of Game of Thrones in 2 weeks.
Yo, how do you do that? Did you do anything else?
No.
Oh, okay. That explains it.
No, I didn't even cook. No. I got takeout, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I did it while I was on summer break back home with my dad.
That was a while ago.
He rewatched all of it during that time. We didn't do anything else. It was literally like DoorDash, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We didn't leave the couch. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. My dad and I, when we were in the hospital, because we had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
When he was in the hospital for like a whole week. He was awake for about like 3 to 4 days. We rewatched all of House of Dragons season 1 and then season 2 until the episode that was like episode number 7. We still needed to watch the season finale.
Yeah,
but
you can.
That season finale, man, I'm a little. It's like it wasn't a bad episode, but it wasn't a season finale. I know that you don't watch it, but like for everybody that's listening that knows House of Thrones, it just wasn't. And I found out this. Calvin and I are complete freaking nerds. This is going to show you how much of a nerd I am. Like I look at TikTok videos and all that stuff about like all the different stories of House Targaryen and all that stuff too. But like one of the videos that we came across was going over.
That's a geek though, no?
Geek? What did I say?
Isn't a nerd like science? Isn't there like a distinction between being a nerd and being a geek?
If there is, I was not aware, but I will proudly wear that flag. I don't care either one. Whatever I am, I'm proudly wearing that flag. I'm like spending. I'm like, oh, I need to actually start working now again. But no, it was one of the things that they were saying is that there were so many issues with the series, like money and somebody leaving the series, that they actually were ending. They actually planned on having 10 episodes, but they had to stop it at 8. So that's why it was like, it wasn't a horrible episode, but it definitely wasn't a season finale. Like it was like one of those episodes where it's setting up for a season finale. Maybe like 1 or 2 more episodes and it would have been a perfect ending. So I guess what they're doing is because they don't have a lot of they didn't have the budget for this season, they're going to be putting it towards the next season, which I mean,
I think they did. It's like this must haunt them because the same shit happened on the last season of Game of Thrones.
Just do it. Did you hear why they did that? It wasn't because money. They had all the money. It was because they got an offer for like a Star Wars thing, and they didn't even get it.
I know the producers, it was new producers and they were like double booked and they just wanted to be done with it. So they just rushed. Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
super
and then
ass.
like the whole world hated them
Yeah,
for it.
I was so annoyed.
God, I was so
I know.
upset. That's and is it George R. R. Martin? Right? That's his name?
I don't know. I
Maybe
think
I
so.
shouldn't be wearing the flag, the geek flag, if I don't remember. I think it's George R. R. Martin. I'm horrible with names. It's my toxic trait. Anyways, hasn't even finished the series yet. Like he came out with saying that he was going to try to keep it kind of close to what they did, but not really. But like, yeah, you could tell in the series where you can see where the writers started coming in because like some of my favorite characters are just starting to act really freaking weird, and it was just like it was
Yeah,
not the ending that
I
they
know.
should have had.
Where it's like I hate when you can tell that there's different writers.
Yeah.
We're rewatching Person of Interest right now.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
And you can tell by like the last season or the second to last season that like it's almost like the personality of the characters change a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they must have new writers.
Yeah. I hate when that happens. Sometimes it's good.
I was about to say, in this case, it was a good thing though.
Okay.
Like,
there's another book series that was turned into a Netflix series. No, it's Amazon Prime or AMC or something like that. It's called The Discovery of Witches. And apparently it's a really great series of books. But
that stuff I can't watch.
Okay, I can. I'm a geek. I love that kind of stuff. I love it. It's actually okay. So the first season, like the first couple episodes were actually really freaking good. And then all of a sudden it just did not make sense. Like it was so rushed. Like all of a sudden 0 to 100 in terms of love, it was just weird. But then you can tell the second and third season, they got different writers and it was significantly better. I'm so glad that I hung on because like the second and third season was really great. But the first season was atrocious. Like if you look on reviews on TikTok, everybody's like bashing it. But apparently the book series is really good. Like so much so that I'm thinking about getting that. I'm already reading a series. Like
you know how to read?
I do.
Oh.
I do. It's a nice thing. I know it's surprising. I know how to read. I is smart. Anyways, that's a long rabbit hole. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about other stuff than just nutrition fitness. But
yes,
if you fast forward to this part, let's get to what.
Oh, if you hang around until now, like maybe
you're like, too.
Maybe you're
like the timestamps at the bottom for them to skip forward if they want.
If you're still here and you're not, well, fuck you guys. You guys are boring and weird. Right? We're actually going to talk about something that helps you, not that our unsolicited advice and opinions on media that you should or should not consume. Right? But I think what we plan on talking about today, and it's okay. I do this when I'm sending out Loom videos too, where I'm having like a full-on conversation with myself and I ask questions. And obviously it's like now, obviously, after you read the title what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Right? It's like not a suspense anymore, but I'm still talking as if it was a suspense.
You don't know what we're talking about.
I know. It's like,
yeah.
But, right? One of the most overlooked aspects of both health and fitness. Sleep.
Yes.
I think it's so important. Like Matt Fraser, when he was like on the Joe Rogan podcast about like his successful games, that he was like, if you could test for sleep, the shit would be illegal.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't know who Matt Fraser is, he's probably the most successful CrossFit Games athlete.
Male CrossFit Games athlete.
Thank you. Yeah. Male CrossFit Games athlete. Yeah.
Tia Toomey is way more successful. And when they were training partners, because he was here in Fargo, so we like hung out with him because he was like a PRX when Rachel was working for PRX Performance. He was like their special guest because it was for Able Games, right? Which Able Games, if you're in the functional fitness realm, it's a functional fitness competition that focuses on people with disabilities, hence why it's Able, right? And there's a bunch of NFL players from the area, and like the peers that they bring in. There's a bunch of games athletes that have experience, like the dancers, I think, have a sibling with Down syndrome, so they're super passionate in it. Matt Fraser is part of it, and it's always in Fargo, out of all places.
Yeah. I mean, Fargo is I would say, a hidden gem, except for in the winter. I don't touch it with a French.
Yeah, fuck the, like 5 months
Screw
out
the
of
winter.
Yeah,
like,
5 months out of the year.
I love you guys, but I'm not going to visit you in the winter. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to wait until like spring, fall, summer. And that's only like 3 months out of the year because Fargo is always cold. God.
And like Loud and Live used to sponsor it, which are the people that run Waterpalooza, which is now called the Miami Fitness Festival. But like Matt O'Keefe, which was Matt Fraser's manager, got Rogue to bring, like, Rogue came with a bunch of trucks to deliver a bunch of equipment. Like it was sick. I mean, it's still sick, but last year was the first year I wasn't involved as part of, like, on the leadership committee. And he was here and he said it's like Tia is way more impressive than he is, because she's like legitimately not hurting. Like when she works out, it's, you know how people at the CrossFit gym, like they do well, but they're like, my knees hurt, and it's like I have to, like, she just never hurts. And she doesn't get hurt. She's never sick. She doesn't get tired. And
her recovery game's on point.
Well, it's, if you qualify for the Olympic Games in, like, was it 3 different disciplines that have like absolutely nothing to do with each other. It's you're one of those like 1 in a million athletes, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Anybody that's winning the games is going to be that. And you win it consecutively. Yeah, you're like 1 in a million type of an athlete, 100%.
So,
but like 100%, I think that what a lot of people don't realize, whether you are an athlete or you're somebody that's just trying to get healthier or you're trying to build muscle or get leaner, it doesn't matter what health and fitness goal that you have. Sleep is such a huge component. Like it's the magic pill that people are either not willing to take or they just really, really struggle with it. Because I think that sleep is one of the things that people know is really important. And there are quite a few people like myself that like know that it's important, but it's just such a huge struggle for a lot of people. So it's been but once you do have sleep going in, it just makes your whole life significantly easier, whatever goals that you have. It's such an amazing tool.
One of my favorite little real shorts, whatever you call it nowadays, that I just saw recently was I think it was Alan Aragon, where he was like, I get asked all the time, what's like your favorite supplement for focus? And he was like, have you tried sleeping longer? Like, you don't need a supplement, right? So it doesn't matter if you're aiming to improve your health, build muscle, lose fat. The quality and quantity of your sleep is so important. Like, I don't remember which scientist it was, but the way he put it, he said the number of people that can sleep less than 6 hours and feel no negative effects. Because we all know these people that are like, as long as I get 4 hours, dude, I'm good. He said the people that can sleep less than 6 hours and feel no negative health effects or performance effects, round it to the closest real number and expressed as a percentage of the population is 0.
Like, there's
not a single person.
Yeah, but there's going to be people like, that's not true, I feel fine. It's like, how do you know? Like,
you don't even know how good you could feel.
Exactly. Especially if you've had really crappy sleep for a really long period of time. Like, that becomes your baseline because you don't have anything else to compare it to. Like, if you've never felt great before, how do you know if you feel great? I mean, like, you have no clue how many times that we've worked with people, whether it's working on sleep or any other thing, where they're like, I never knew that I could feel this good. I never knew that I struggle with all these different things. It's because how do you know, especially if you've never if you've struggled for it for a long period of time, or you've never been really good at it, like you, again, I'm going to say it again. How do you know? Right? I mean, as of lately, I've been struggling with sleep majority of my adult life. Like it's been a miserable experience with sleep, and I finally feel like I'm getting into the groove of things, and I'm like, so this is what it feels like to actually be able to be productive. Like this is what it feels like to have a ton of energy in the day. Like this is what it feels like to be emotionally stable, have emotional regulation. Like it's just such a huge significant change. I wish I figured out how to get my sleep better faster, because it's just like my whole life is significantly better, and I really do believe that one of the big pieces is just I've been starting to prioritize sleep. So
yeah, it's not just a time when your body is at rest, right? And it's like everybody's like, you can sleep when you're dead. It's like, yeah, but it's where your brain and your body perform like super critical processes during that time, right? And it's like sleep is not just sleep, right? It's not just this one thing. Your body cycles through so many different stages multiple times, right? And each of those cycles usually lasts about 90 minutes. So the more often you can cycle through these cycles, the better your sleep is, right? Yeah. So it's like you're early in the night sleep. You have deep sleep, right? That actually is usually in the beginning, right? So it's like when you're falling asleep, that's why falling on asleep on the couch is so bad, right? It's because the second you wake up, you've pulled yourself out of that deep sleep, right? Or falling asleep with the TV on, because that light disturbance doesn't allow you to like get that deep sleep, right? And that's where you get physical recovery, hormonal restoration, and as your night progresses, you're getting into that REM sleep that everybody always talks about, right? And it's like those sleep periods lengthen, and that's where you process emotions. That's where you do cognitive processing, right? That's where dreaming happens. But it's like there's so many different things that we can do to boost the quality of our sleep. And if we do that, like you already said, it's like so many positive things.
Yeah.
Like immune function gets better. You feel less stress. It's not that you're less stressed. You're just able to deal with it.
Yeah,
better.
you're like aka harder to kill. Like you don't exacerbate things. Like for one of my favorite examples of this is, have you ever seen the reel where there's like a beagle or a dog on the couch and it's playing with a toy, and all of a sudden the toy falls on the ground and it just flops up, and like his big huge ears just flop up in the air, and it just belts out and it's like ah, and freaks out, when it could have literally just got down, picked it up, and sat back down on the couch. It's like that exacerbating moment where if you sleep enough, it's really not that big of a deal. But when you're in lack of sleep, you just turn into this big, huge mental drama queen. Maybe possibly talking from personal experience. I don't know.
Right. But it's chronic sleep deprivation is like linked to things of like hypertension, like depression, diabetes, 100%. And that's just long-term effects. Short-term, like one night of poor sleep can reduce recovery by 20%. No. So you have one night of sleep that you're missing out on, and your recovery is 20% less. That's so much.
I also heard of a study done in terms of like testosterone levels, like men, and this is specifically geared towards men, but women, testosterone levels are super important. I don't know this. We don't know the specific numbers on that, but we can estimate it's still really important. But like men who do not get enough sleep have the testosterone levels of someone 10 to 15 years their senior. right? Just from sleep alone. And testosterone levels, especially for men, have such a huge hand in having a great mood, energy, building muscle tissue, like so many different other things that really do affect your quality of life. So it's really, really important.
Yeah. It's, again, research just shows, that those people who get consistent quality sleep have better heart health, have improved cognitive function, right? So it's like they're sharper, have a lower risk of chronic disease. And we're not just talking about health. We're not even talking about like some of the immediate benefits that you can have.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other thing that we can dive into is that like how sleep makes it significantly easier for you to like build muscle tissue, get
Oh,
leaner, and maintain being lean. Like there's so many, like I think that you guys can hear from us that like sleep is, if you're going to invest in anything, if you're going to work on anything, invest in your sleep. It's going to be like one of the biggest high like return on investment for you because it's just going to remove a lot of friction. But in terms of fat loss, okay, let's say that your goal is fat loss.
mm-hmm.
I've got this study here. Do you mind if I share this on the screen, Toby?
Go ahead. Maybe it's the same study that I usually reference. We'll
It's
find out.
yeah, it's like it's a super popular study that a lot of people.
That doesn't make it good.
Hey, maybe. Where is it? Is that it? Yep, there you go. Here it is. All right, so here's the. This is a very, very popular study that's referenced in terms of like how sleep affects your ability to lose fat, but also maintain muscle mass while you're losing weight. Because as a reminder, guys, like when you're trying to see the weight on the scale go down and you're only focusing on that, an important question that you need to always be asking is how much of that weight is actually fat? Because you're entirely capable of going into a calorie deficit and seeing the weight go down. But if you're not focusing on key things like sleep, strength training, eating enough protein, making sure that you're not taking extreme measures, recovery, all the different things, majority of that weight could potentially be muscle mass. So
Ooh,
now you're
this is
shrinking yourself, but your body composition isn't really changing. That's why people are like, hey, I'm smaller, but I don't look like more athletic or more toned. I just look like I take up less space. And it's because you're potentially losing a lot of muscle mass.
mm-hmm.
And like I said before, sleep is a huge proponent on it. So it's like a very common study that's referenced and the effect on sleep when it comes to weight loss. Okay. So what they did is they took two different groups of people. They put them both in a calorie deficit. The only thing that changed between them, right, is the amount of sleep they got. One group got 8.5 hours on average. The other group got 5.5 hours on the average. And if you're on the video and you're looking at this graphic right now, you can see that the mint green, right, is the amount of muscle that they lost. And the gray is the amount of fat that they lost. Remember, we want to lose fat. We want to maintain muscle mass. And so the group that only got about 5.5 hours of sleep versus the group that 8.5, they lost the same amount of weight generally. Fairly close, right? It's kind of splitting hairs at this moment.
I'm assuming if we're looking at the actual graph, that this is going to be labeled as a statistically insignificant difference.
Yeah, there you go. But when you look at how much muscle versus how much fat, there is a significant difference. The group that got 5.5 hours on average, 80% of the weight that they lost was actually muscle mass. Only 20% of it was fat.
Which means your body fat percentage may be equivalently as high as was before, if not higher now, which means you actually didn't get healthier at all. And okay, don't get me wrong. Unless you were like 350 pounds, like maybe, but generally speaking, we don't want to just lose. When we're saying we want to lose weight, we usually want to lose fat.
That's why we always say there's a difference between weight loss and fat loss.
For sure. If weight loss is the only goal, let's just lose as much muscle as possible.
Yeah.
Like, let's just shred to the bone.
It's the easiest way to do it, but it also makes it extremely hard for you to sustain it, and you're not going to be healthier for it. But the group that got 8.5 on average, okay, they lost about 48% of fat, and only in comparison to the other group, 52%. Now, what I would say is that's still a little bit too much muscle mass for my liking. I would like to try to mitigate that as possible. Some muscle mass loss during a calorie deficit is understandable. It's expected for a lot of people. There are a few people that might maintain muscle mass if they're very diligent on things, and also depends on the person and their circumstances. But you can just see alone in these two groups how much sleep makes a huge difference in your ability to maintain muscle mass while trying to really focus on losing fat. So in terms of fat loss, if that is your goal, it makes it significantly easier. I think the other thing as well is something to take in consideration is when you don't get enough sleep, one of the very not fun side effects of this is that it does mess up your hunger cues a lot, right? You have two hormones that dictate your hunger, and then also you have one that dictates your hunger levels and one that dictates your satiety levels. So leptin and ghrelin. And so when you don't get enough sleep, this is why a lot of people get really, really snacky, is because that stress of lack of sleep makes you very, very snacky. So when you compare people who get enough sleep versus those that don't, you can see that those people that don't get enough sleep have a significantly higher chance of having extra weight on their body, simply because they're more likely to snack. It's harder for them to stay within their calorie limits or prevent overeating. And it's just because of lack of sleep. So sleeping more can actually help you maintain, like, be within a certain amount of calories easier, right? You won't be so likely to grab a handful of chocolate chips or keep snacking off your kid's plate over and over again, or feel like you have uncontrollable hunger at the end of the day because you're sleeping more, right? So it just makes it a lot easier for people to be successful in seeing fat loss goals and also maintaining it long term as well.
There's another, like an anecdotal study that I just found out about, and it was it was a couple, a married couple. They're both clinicians, but they're also both, like, they're both doctors, but they're both professional bodybuilders. Like, they both have a pro card, and they compared two different prep phases, right? So for everyone who's not familiar with the terminology, that's just where they're trying to get ready for their show, their next show. And the first one that they compared it to was they had such immense burnout after that through them reverse dieting and going into maintenance, they actually lost all of their shape. And this is where they were just trying to burn the boats, you know?
Yeah.
Train as much as possible, do as much cardio as possible, work as much as possible, do all those things, right? And sleep was simply not that, but they slept, don't get me wrong, but it was not as much of a priority.
Yeah.
And that's what led to burnout. Now, the second time they prepped, they both ate more food. Mm-hmm. They put a significantly greater importance on chilling and sleeping and winding down. And they actually both gained weight, but lost like 7% body fat.
Nice.
Which, right? Which for the people who don't know, like, losing 7% body fat within a single fat loss phase, that's actually super big deal, right? And the reason why that percentage was so big is because they lost fat and built muscle at the same time. If I'm keeping 100%, if I'm keeping my muscle mass the same and I lose fat, my body fat percentage drops. But if I'm also increasing muscle mass, I am actually increasing that drop of body fat percent. And the visual differences were huge. And the crazy thing is, they were eating roughly around maintenance calories, which is insane. Like, the entire deficit of the fat loss came from thyroid hormones. Right? It was injections. They were both chemically enhanced. And if you put yourself in a hyperthyroid state, your metabolism just spikes up, right? So it was hard to judge, but they ate at maintenance level. They just increased their movements quite significantly, but the results were crazy. And the biggest takeaways were A, more food, B, more chilling, right? And C, more enjoyment,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
So it's
It
not
just shows
just,
you that more is not better, better is better.
yeah, it's now we have clinical evidence, but also anecdotal evidence, right? Which sometimes they like, anecdotal evidence is difficult sometimes. It's because
For a second, Toby, can you explain what anecdotal evidence is to
yes,
the
it's
listeners, just in
just,
case they don't know what that is?
yes, it's me reporting things based on my own experience. I haven't documented any data. I haven't done any concrete research. I haven't used any statistical means of analysis. I've done something and based on my own or somebody else's firsthand experience. I'm reporting these findings.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. So now we have both clinical and anecdotal that speak for more sleep leads to more muscle, leads to less fat, leads to better physique.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I would also say too, going into like anecdotal, I don't have any studies on this. I think that there is. I think that there's actually a researcher that is studying the connection between stress management and relationship with food. And because I remember listening on a podcast, and I believe that she has a book out, and she does have a book out about like stress management, but I think she dives into it into the book. But I talk about this a lot with my clients as well, is that a lot of times when you have a poor relationship with food, it's because you're trying to cope with some type of feeling. Like, I don't want to feel this feeling, so I'm going to replace it with another feeling. Right. And so you're trying to get that quick dopamine hit. Okay. And a lot of times those feelings that you're feeling is maybe overstimulation, burnout, feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed or helpless or things like that. And like I said before, when you are overly stressed, like lack of sleep, it's going to exacerbate those feelings. Therefore, it's probably going to bring out your poor coping mechanisms, your poor relationship with food more. And so one of the things that I work with a lot with my clients, just because I have personal experience with having a horrible relationship with food, is learning how to manage our stress better, how to find different coping mechanisms, but also add things into our life that helps us manage our stress better. And a common thing that a lot of people experience, and I experience this as well with myself, is when you get lack of sleep, okay, you tend to not be able to manage your emotions. You have lack of emotional stability. You have less of a connection of identifying what I'm feeling, finding a different coping mechanism, right? Like, it's just like when you're squatting, okay, and you're working on a specific technique. And if you're fresh, you're like, hey, like, I'm starting to get the technique down. It's starting to look better. But then you put yourself under a position of fatigue. Maybe you had a really horrible workout the day before and you're super sore, or you're on your 30th or 40th rep and you're starting to get tired. Your old movement patterns are going to start coming out because you're under stress. So it's the same thing when you're under stress as well. Your old behavior patterns that you're trying to get away from are going to start coming out. So sleep, prioritizing your sleep is a really, really great way to help create a better relationship with food inadvertently, right? I know for a fact that when I am not sleeping, one of the big reasons why I possibly like cope with food is because ADHD, I'm always looking for that dopamine hit, or I'm also a huge introvert and I get overstimulated really fast.
And because science, when you're sleep deprived, your hunger hormones are increased by about 30%.
30%. We talked about that before, but I didn't know it was exact 30%. Damn.
Ish.
Right. So with that being said, when I am not getting enough sleep, or I'm overstressed or overstimulated, I am more likely to snack. I am more likely to grab onto something when I normally wouldn't. So if I just keep my sleep in check while also checking all the other boxes as well, it's a lot easier for me to create a better relationship with food and start really putting in the repetitions of replacing my old coping mechanism with a newer coping mechanism. So if you're somebody that really struggles with that, dive into sleep. It's just going to make it significantly easier for you. Sorry, than if you are trying to do it along with lack of sleep, right? You're just stacking your cards against you. So, but how about, why don't we dive into some like easy and practical ways for people to get better sleep?
Easy.
Let's go.
Now, I think, what are some common sleep issues that you normally see? Right? Because it's like, if we're just talking about solutions, it's like, what is the solution actually for? Right? It's, I think whenever we're talking about a solution, we also have to identify a problem with or for that solution so that it becomes practical.
The most common things that I see with clients are, one, they need to say no more at night. Right, with work or with a routine or at home and things like that, saying no more to things. Yeah, another one is their phone, right? We dive into this phone and we just can't let it go, or we're just looking at our electronics super late. I think also just stress, right? I know for me specifically, one of the ways that I deal with my stress is like, I'm just going to dive into this tonight. I'm just going to get it done. Like my emotions kind of take in, and my logical side of like, hey, if I get a good night's sleep, I'd probably get it done faster, probably have more energy and do it better.
That's not necessarily true. It's because what you do is you find fixing where there's no need for things to be fixed.
Okay.
Like, you just make yourself so much more work than you need to. It's like your toxic trait is like, when you're stressed out, is fixing things that necessarily don't need fixing.
Call me out, man. I thought you liked me.
It depends. There needs to be like, it's like
it depends that you like me.
It's like a yin and a yang, you know. You know that little girl that has like, that asks her mom for cookies, and the mom says no, and she's like, I like you sometimes, but I don't like you all the time. I like you when you give me cookies, but I don't like you when you don't give me cookies. You know.
I feel it.
But no, I think that's super common, right? Stress related sleep disturbances. I think sleep hygiene is huge.
Oh yeah.
And by sleep hygiene, I don't mean go take a shower before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, that's only to keep your partner calm. Like, if you go into bed and you stink, unless you can smell yourself, like, now it's an issue. But sleep hygiene is keeping your bedroom cool and dark. Again, reducing light exposure. This is the biggest issue that we see with animals, right? Like, if you notice, or you ever talk to anybody who lives in like Scandinavia, when they have their periods of just 24 hours of sunlight, it's like the birds chirp at midnight. They just don't know that they're meant to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same thing when you're exposing yourself to so much artificial light in the city. Like, in ecology, we call this light pollution, because it ruins the natural cycle of animals. Hence why being exposed to the sunrise helps to wake up, and being exposed to the sunset helps you to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one of the big things I've been doing in my routine that's been helping out a lot, is like, when I wake up, I try to get sun first thing in the morning. Obviously in the winter it's a little bit harder, but you try to do the best that you can. And then at night, when it's time to start winding down, Calvin and I, we literally, all the overhead lights, we turn it off. We have orange lights and little like fake candles and like real candles around. We turn that on so it's dimmer. Like you said before, make sure that everything is cold and dark. So we turn down the air conditioning down to about like 65.
I was about to say 65 is about, 65. I know, and a lot of people are like, that's cold as fuck. It's
like, I mean, yeah, you like, it's, your body sleeps better at that temperature. I think
Yes.
it's around on average about 65 degrees where your body actually gets the optimal amount of sleep. When you keep it hotter, it's very hard for you to sleep. So that's actually a quick win. And I know that you're talking about the shower, but actually the shower is one of like my quick tips that usually works for a lot of people, is because the reason why you can go to sleep when it's colder is because it drops down your core temperature. When you drop your core temperature down, god damn it, words are hard today, it helps you get sleepy. It helps you get all snuggly. That's why in the winter you're tired and you don't want to do jack shit. It's because you're colder. And so it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but take a hot shower, because what that's going to do is your body always wants to counteract. What goes up, once it'll want to go down. And so you raise your core temperature. Well, your body's going to fight that. So by the time you get out of the hot shower, your core temperature is down and you start getting calmer and ready to go to sleep. That's usually what I do. If I am hyped up before I have to go to bed, I'm like, I have to start getting to bed, but I'm wired. Or I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm just like, I don't know why I'm awake. I'll do a quick hot shower and all of a sudden I am out within a couple minutes.
Hence why cold showers in the morning work, right? Because it forces your body to raise the core temperature.
Yeah. So if you're one of those people that wakes up in the middle of the night, sometimes you just can't go back to sleep, do a quick hot shower. See if that helps.
Now, for those with more serious sleep issues, like sleep apnea, insomnia, right? Clinically diagnosable issues, seek medical advice.
Yeah.
The shit's important. It's serious. It's bad for you. Like, again, that can be some of the reasons why you may be more susceptible with certain chronic illnesses later in your life. And if you have a genetic history, and by that I mean like if it runs in your family, it becomes even more serious.
Yeah.
Right? Doing sleep studies is so common nowadays. Just get one done,
yeah.
100%. But I think those are like the easiest things to help immediately. Now,
I actually have a couple more.
I was about to say those are free.
Oh,
there are a few more that if we want to spend some money that we can do. Like,
I actually have one more that's actually might save you money.
Like what?
Drink less caffeine. If you're one of those people that drinks too much caffeine, or you drink caffeine too late in the day.
That's the thing. Yeah. Caffeine drinking too late in the day. Caffeine has a half-life. Now, for my non-chemistry majors, half-life just means how long it takes in order for a certain compound to lose half its potency. Caffeine's half-life is, research varies, but on average 4 to 5 hours. For mathematics' sake, let's say 4. So a general normal size cup of coffee, like not an American pot, with these like giant ass things where you can put your whole fist in the handle. They generally have about 100 milligrams, depending on what kind of coffee. If you get cold brew, if you like those kind, the standard cup of coffee have 100 milligrams. How many people do you know, especially our age, that start their day with an energy drink?
A lot.
Like, what's the most famous one now? Ghost. We have Ghost energy drinks. We have Monster, Celsius, Rain.
Alani Nu.
Yeah, all kinds. And on average, they have 200 to 300 milligrams, right? I know people that have multiple of those in a day.
I used to be one of those people.
Shame on you.
I know. It's just like, I look back at that. I was like in college, or no, the worst is when I worked at GNC. Yeah, I drink way too many of those.
And listen, we also that's just because it's
take
there.
Pre-workout like samples, and I would just test them all out.
Why?
Like, I don't know.
Don't you get so panicky when you do that? Like, I would sit there and have an anxiety attack.
God.
But it's right now. Let's say you wake up in the morning. You're not like my crazy ass and wake up super early, but you wake up at 7, right? 7, and on your way to work, you have a 300 milligram energy drink. Now, by the time you're done with that, let's say it's 8 o'clock. At noon, 4 hours later, you still have 150 milligrams in your system. Now, by 4 o'clock, you have 75, right? But you've had a cup of coffee at lunch because it's free. You came home and your wife called or your husband calls, like, hey, would you like something from Starbucks? I'm there. It's like, sure, get me just like I don't know, what do they order? Like a nitro vanilla foam cold brewed, whatever. It's like
Frou-frou drink.
Rachel just has like a long, super long order that I always get wrong. Like I have her text it to me so I can read it off. Right now you're adding that. So now it's not like that you've only had this much and that much caffeine. You're adding to whatever is left in your system, right? So now by 4 o'clock, you're spiking things up. So now you're sitting at 175, right? Which means by 8 o'clock, you have about 90. By midnight, you still have 45. And it takes only 15 to 20 milligrams of caffeine to impact your sleep negatively. Yeah. Now,
but Toby, you know, I have no energy throughout the day. I have to do energy drinks to get things done.
You probably, like, movement feeds off of movement. You probably need to go on a walk. You need some fresh air, and you need to drink
some water.
And I was about to say, you need to drink some water with electrolytes and maybe just sleep longer or sleep more.
Your nutrition too. I mean, your food is fuel too. Like, 100%. Like most times when people are like, "Hey, like I can't get through the day without some caffeine," that's probably a sign that you probably need to dial something in, because it's a problem. If you can't get through the day without some caffeine, it's a problem. It can be supplemental. Don't get me wrong. Caffeine can be really beneficial, but you got to be logical with it. You can't abuse it. And most people really, really abuse caffeine. And it's one of the big reasons why people don't get enough sleep at night. Right. So let's go into some other tips, but you were talking about how these tips leading forward were probably something that people would have to invest in a little bit.
Yeah, you need to spend a little. I mean, you don't have to, but you can.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to go from things that I know are super cheap, and then we may be going a little bit more expensive. And I think that those are all, like, I like to call them like the 1%ers. Like, if you don't do any of the things we just talked about, you probably don't need to invest a ton of money into some of those things, right? Because a poop dressed up in a tuxedo is, well, still poop. So if you get shitty sleep, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on certain things. But something that can help is tart cherry juice. Sounds strange. It can help. It naturally increases some physiological processes in your body that are conducive to better sleep. You can get some magnesium glycinate. There are tons of different magnesiums out there. The more commonly that you can find in the stores, probably 5 to 7, depends on where you go. As long as you stay away from magnesium citrate, you're probably good, unless you want to shit yourself. It's a natural laxative, but magnesium glycinate is usually malate, can help with muscle relaxation too. But magnesium in general is really, really good pre-bed. You can get like some blue light glasses if you would like to block out some additional of the disturbing light waves. You can... This is now where we get fancy. There are certain, depending on where you sleep and if your sleep environment is significantly different from your partner, there are certain mattresses or mattress covers or toppers that allow you to cool your bed, right? Like 8 Sleep is a super famous one.
Yeah, but there's even there's dupes on Amazon that are getting just as good reviews for 100%, a quarter of the price.
I just don't know the name of them.
There's a bunch of different ones. Actually, like Calvin and I are actually looking into it. Calvin found one that has really great reviews. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but we're thinking about getting that actually. I think also some like really, really simple ones is like an eye mask. And this is usually if you can't control whether or not light comes
Yeah.
in,
You
get
can
an
get
eye mask.
blackout curtains.
Blackout curtains is another one. Put duct tape over any lights. Like if you have an alarm or you have like things in your bedroom, like we have an what's it called? Cleaner, not a cleaner.
like a
Words are hard today.
like a purifier.
Purifier. There you go. Calvin needs those because his allergies are really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it has lights all over it. So we like put things over top of it so the lights don't go up. You can do a bunch of different things. I know Calvin has been putting tape over his mouth, so he like focuses on sleeping out of his nose more, which does improve your sleep quality for some people. There's a bunch of different things that you can do that really do help with sleep. That aren't very, very expensive. But then there's also some things that you can do that are a little bit more expensive if you do want to invest in. So like the bed, I think also getting some type of light therapy through the day, especially if you live in a place that's Midwest or in the North, because
Oh yeah,
when it's cold, when it's winter, you don't get a lot of sunlight.
King of the North.
Yes,
Sorry,
King of winter is coming. But
it is.
It is. But that can be an investment that you can make is sitting in front of some type of light therapy that mimics getting the sunlight. So that way your body can go through that natural process of staying awake and going to sleep.
Any of these, please don't try to get them to offset some of the other negative habits and behaviors you have.
Yes.
Can it help? Maybe, but the effect of them will be marginal compared to what they could be if you do all of the other little things right, or if you just do the things that we talked about that are free, and then you can save all of that money.
100%. Oh, I just thought of one. This is actually a common one that a few of my clients lately, it's been super helpful, is just focusing on what they're eating before and the time that they're eating before they go to bed as well. Sometimes people can fall asleep, but then they wake up in the middle of the night frequently. And one of the reasons why is because, or like two different reasons why, is one, they might be eating too close to bed, so their body's still digesting. When your body's digesting, it's a lot of work for the body. A lot of blood flow goes there, and it keeps people up at night. It's hard for them to go to sleep. So stopping anywhere from like 1 to 3 hours before you go to bed. It depends on the person.
I was about to say, this doesn't like, not everybody is equally sensitive, but it's...
No. And there's actually some people, I've worked with some people that they can't go to bed unless they eat before they go to bed. So it just depends on the person, but that's something to try out.
They can. It's just another habit to break, it's...
But then the other thing is just making sure that you're eating the right types of food that's going to help keep your blood sugar level when you sleep throughout the night. Sometimes when you wake up frequently, it's because your blood sugar is just up or down or things like that. And it just wakes you up. And so that's why a lot of times people are like, I have to eat at night. Otherwise I can't go back to sleep. It's because your blood sugar is off. And you need to make sure that you're eating something that's going to have complex carbohydrates before you go to bed. Also pair that with something like a protein, maybe some fiber. When you pair those together,
actually some fat maybe too, to slow down gastric emptying. But all of those things that you just talked about, right? Complex carbohydrates, because it takes the body longer to break them down. Protein, because again, it slows gastric emptying and it just keeps your blood sugar levels nice and level. If you have your pre-night heaper, where it's like, oh my God, I'm keeping this muffin in a cup before I'm going to bed, chances are you're going to spike your blood sugar. If you skip dinner and you go to bed on a very empty stomach, you might wake up at like 3:30 a.m. starving. Yeah, it's because your blood sugar is now super low, and the body will signal you in the only way it can to get it up. It's like, hey, do the thing that you normally do that increases my blood sugar.
Yeah. And then if you're in a calorie deficit, if you accidentally eat all your food super early and you're done eating by 4 and you just go to bed, it's one of the reasons why people like wake up in the middle of the night and they're just miserable. It's just like, especially when you're in a fat loss phase, like make sure you plan it out well. Don't run out of food early, because we were just talking about this before, sleep is imperative. So you want to make sure you're supporting that. Make sure that you're timing it well, making sure that you're eating complex carbohydrates before you go to bed. That's going to make it a lot easier for you too. Right. Can you think of anything else, Toby?
If we sit here long enough, probably.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I think another one is just like sticking to a routine. Like the whole having different times where you wake up at different days. Like obviously there are some things that are non-negotiable, especially for work schedules. There are some days you're gonna, like, some people have different like night shifts and things like that. But the more that you can keep a routine, the better that you're going to support a circadian rhythm. So you can tell when somebody has a really great circadian rhythm when they start getting tired at a specific time, and they can wake up at a specific time in the morning and they don't need an alarm clock.
That's me.
Yeah, like when you have that going, your circadian rhythm
it's great.
Point.
It's phenomenal. Yes. It's like when we're out, and I start to sink into my chair, Rachel is usually like, oh, must be 9:30, 9:45. It's like, I'm checked out, I'm done. I get nothing productive done. Sometimes I force it's like, I gotta get this done. But the quality of work is so bad that now the next day I probably have to redo it, which means I'm now adding to that day. So
yeah. And so getting into a circadian rhythm, especially if you're the type of person where it's like, I wake up at this time during the weekdays, but then I sleep in super, super late on the weekends. It's like, that's not the worst thing in the world. But if you are looking to improve your sleep, thinking about creating a schedule that you stick to on a daily basis could really help with your circadian rhythm and help you be able to get to sleep easier and get better quality of sleep. Your body thrives off of routine, absolutely thrives off of it. So getting into that routine, setting that, trying to be as consistent as possible. Like every once in a while sleeping in is not a big deal, but you want to make sure that is an every once in a while thing, not a trend. That's going to be super helpful too.
Yeah, right. But it's, now that we're on it, another thing that can help is getting one of those natural daylight alarm clocks. I know they look like a bunch of woo-woo, and I didn't believe in them until I got one. And this is now when you don't believe in something and you're actually being proven wrong. That's the coolest feeling ever, because you're like, holy shit, this actually works. But I have it like slowly increase, very warm light, about 15 minutes before my alarm is supposed to go, and you're not getting pulled out of deep sleep. And sometimes I'm even up before the alarm goes, right? So it's like that desire to press, what's the word? Snooze.
Yeah.
The desire to press snooze is not as high, or not even there at all. It's actually super cool.
Yeah. And I'm not like, when you use something like a sunlight alarm, like you're not angry when you wake up. Like I get angry when somebody
it's because you don't get pulled out of the deep sleep. Like you
get woken up. And then I also have like birds chirping as the alarm, so you're just like, you're feeling like Snow White or like a Disney princess and being woken up, and it's all nice and light and everything like that. Yeah, 100%. The only thing is that sometimes Calvin will unplug it because it starts getting bright, and he's like, screw that, I don't want that, and unplugs it. But I'm like, I want it. Like, give me my alarm.
Rachel is a super light sleeper, so we actually had a lot, like when we just started dating, that I would oversleep almost all, because I'm a super deep sleeper. And if she's up, like the second the alarm goes, she would turn it off. Yeah. And I was like, well, now I don't wake up from my alarm. Like, that's a huge problem. You know, she's like, nobody needs the alarm to sound for 15 minutes.
Oh, I love you guys. Anyways, so I hope that this podcast episode helped you realize how important sleep is. It is the magic pill that everybody wants, but not many people are willing to take it, or it's just really hard for them to do so. And I hope that we gave you some really practical tips that you can get started with in order to help you get better sleep. Okay. I think a big thing that we need to point out is that we did list off some supplements that can help with sleep. But remember that supplements are supplemental. I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make. They're like, hey, like I'm just going to take this sleep supplement and it's just going to mask all the crap that I don't do that supports my sleep, right? It's supplemental. It's supposed to supplement what you're already doing. So please dive into the sleep hygiene, getting in a routine, controlling your environment. It's going to have such a huge return on investment. And then if you want to spend money on supplements, you can. Like, for example, I mean, I working my butt off for a very long period of time on my sleep hygiene routine, finding out what works best for me. But I still invest in my sleep because dude, I've been struggling with sleep majority of my adult life. It literally was going crazy because of it. If you've ever experienced that, you know that you're literally willing to try almost anything because you feel kind of insane because you're not getting enough sleep. And so one of the things that I regularly take is Cured Nutrition, which is one of our partners now. I had such a good experience with them and their supplements. It was just an absolute game changer that we wanted to partner with them as well with Thriving On and provide that as a resource to our own clients because it's just so helpful. They are more of a functional based supplement company. They have a really great supplement that has all the ingredient list, the ingredients that Tobi mentioned, like magnesium, things like valerian root, just all these different things that really do help with sleep. But they also provide a supplement that has a CBD and THC, a microdose of THC as well, that helps with getting to sleep too. It's a really, really cool combo when you add those together. I mean, I don't think I've ever had such restful sleep in my life. And that was when I started doing all the changes with my lifestyle and then added that in there. It was just like a cherry on tap, right? Just brought it all together. Much better experience. Feel like I have my sanity back. So just full disclosure, supplements are just supplemental. Make sure that you focus on the things that you might not want to do, but
that's why they're called supplements,
yeah.
Right? Supplements, not replacements.
Exactly. Right. So get that done. It's going to be a huge return on investment. I promise you, it's going to be 1,000% worth it when you create those changes. Okay. Do you have any final remarks, Tobi, before we sign off and let them go?
No.
I can't think of anything.
No. Yeah. I feel like I did that last week too. For those looking to dive a little bit deeper into the science of sleep, I recommend reading Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Good recommendation. 100%.
Yes.
Knowledge
I feel
is power,
like
y'all.
100%. Knowledge used is power. If you just acquire knowledge for the sake of acquiring knowledge, doesn't do much for you, right? But I want y'all to interact. Like, send me a message. I love talking about this kind of shit. So reach out, right? I'm usually tagged in all of the Instagram things about the podcast that Casey shares. Right.
It's also in the show notes below, guys.
Yeah,
like his contact information is below there too, so you can hit that up as well as mine as well. Like
if you've done some of these things and they improve your sleep, beautiful. How has focusing or improving your sleep affected your health? I know just recently I talked to a friend of mine that said, like, hey, by focusing on my sleep, I actually was able to get rid of my sleep mask and I'm no longer pre-diabetic. Like, fucking dope. Yeah, like, I want to hear, I want to hear, I was about to say, what are some of the common misconceptions that hopefully we debunked today, or what was something that you learned? Yeah. Right.
Or if you are struggling and maybe we didn't cover what you're struggling, reach out. Like, I know that there's a lot of people that are like, but I don't want to bother you. And I'm like, bother us.
I promise you
bother us. It doesn't bother us. Like, we love it. We love questions. We love chatting with you guys. This is why we're here. We want to help people in any way that we can, dude. Just let us know. Our doors are open. We don't bite. I promise. And we love you guys. We're here for you. We want to help you become the CEO of your health. And I think another thing is that if you find that these episodes are helpful for you, a big thing that's going to be helpful for us is just leaving a review maybe sharing this with some friends if you thought that this was helpful, or if you feel like a family member needed to hear this or some friends need to hear this, please share. Our big mission here is just helping people become the CEO of their health, and we can't do that without you. Spreading the word and getting what we're putting out there to other people, it means more than you know, and it's a simple click and share, and we'll love you for it. But beyond that, I think that's it. I think we're going to wrap it up. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Your time and attention means more than you know. We can't wait to chat with you next week with our next episode. We don't know what the topic is, but we'll figure it out before we do. Right? We'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.